4, 3. So we will start off with this CD, and this is Billy Connolly, The Ultimate Collection. This is a 3 CD set. Big fan of Billy Connolly, as you guys probably know. Got this in HMV. It was on the till for like a couple of quid, so quite a good deal. This is mostly just a lot of the songs he did and some bits of some of his older live shows. Some of the songs are live, so they've got an audience and so on. It's a pretty fun CD. Not my favourite CD. Not the type of thing I'd listen to, over and over and over again. But it's pretty fun for what it is, and this only cost me like 3-4 quid or something, so can't really complain. Never trust a man who when left alone with a tea cosy does not try it on. I don't like this packaging, by the way. It's sort of I've had a few CDs like this where the discs are they're not tight in there, but they're just kind of a bit fiddly to get out, which is an absolute pain. So I'm not going to get all the discs out. I'll just show you disc 1 as an example. Some of the colour schemes are slightly different, but other than that, there's not really any point. But yeah, that's Billy Connolly, The Ultimate Collection. So that was my CD, and now we move on to my only VHS tape got since last update, and this is the Quatermass Conclusion. I've had this tape on Save Searches for a couple of years now. I've been trying to get at least the 2 main Quatermass or serials, or this isn't really a serial, it's a film. The Quatermass stuff that was shown on TV on VHS. I don't think I'll get the Hammer films on VHS, just because, to tell you the truth, I'm not really that interested in getting them on tape, and I can get them on Blu-ray. But yeah, it was originally a serial, which I believe was 4 parts long, I think it was just called Quatermass, or Quatermass 4, whatever you want to call it, which was shown in the late 70s. The first 3 Quatermass serials were shown in the 50s. On the BBC, whereas this was shown on ITV, and then I believe it's Houston Films who made this. They, wanted to make a bit more cash, so they basically edited it down into a film, which I believe was released I don't know if it was released in cinemas in the UK, but it was probably released in cinemas internationally. I've not seen this yet. I've heard slightly more mixed things about this. I believe the original serial's better, but it'd be worth a watch, and it's nice to have as a collector's item. This was released by the Video Collection under the Thames Video Collection banner. But yeah, unlike Quatermass in the Pit, which I showed last year, this tape seems to be quite rare. It doesn't pop up on eBay that often, and people overvalue it. I managed to get this initially for about 10 quid, but I got a discount on it because the tape was a little mouldy. Fortunately, it wasn't severe, so I was able to clean it with just a single pass, which is fucking awesome. I hate mouldy tapes. It doesn't play perfectly, but I think that's more than likely down to the fact that it's probably just a bit worn, because this tape was released in 1987, so it's 36 years old, 37 years old. But yeah, I was able to digitise this, and it seems to play alright. Here's the tape. And it comes in a Video Collection embossed case. What is that? Funnily enough, the cover design for this was done by Nicky Downs, who also did the sleeve for Quatermass in the Pit right here. Let me see, where does it say? Yeah, Nicky Downs. I'm assuming it's the same person. Kind of bizarrely, because Mickey Downs did a lot of sleeves for the BBC back in the 80s, and this is a BBC release, whereas this one is a video collection release. I think this is the only video collection title I've got from the 80s where the sleeve wasn't designed by Peter Hill. Peter Hill designed the video collection sleeves. Yeah, even this beautiful sleeve right here. I love this cover, it's so laughably shit. But yeah, that was the Quatermass conclusion. So now we move on to the DVDs, and I've got 2 new Doctor Who DVDs right here. The Underwater Menace Special Edition and the Celestial Toymaker. These are the last couple of animated ones I needed. Putting off buying them for ages, and you can probably understand why. Underwater Menace I've got right here. This is the actual DVD it came with. Notice that it doesn't say special edition anywhere on the slipcover or even on the case, which is absolutely bizarre, because even like Web of Fear special edition, and I guess the BBC was so embarrassed by the last release, they were pretending it didn't exist, which is fair enough. Now, I didn't want to buy this DVD purely from principle, because the original Underwater Menace DVD, as everyone knows, is so fucking bad. Like, the reconstruction is borderline unwatchable, and when you read about, you know, the fact that the BBC were intentionally making it as shit as possible, you know, it gets very hard to defend it on any level. So I was a little bit reluctant with buying the special edition, because, you know, they took my money for the original release. Why the hell would I give them the money twice? But afterwards I decided, you know, at least I've got a watchable version, which is always good, because the thing is, I don't even like the Underwater Menace that much at all. I think it's a bit cack. Maybe I might enjoy it a bit more when I watch the animation, but part of me doubts it, because even the surviving episodes weren't all that good. Inside, this is just the original DVD release from 2015. I'll just keep that in the slipcover. This is the actual DVD you get. Silver case, of course. Got infinite supply silver cases. Yep, here's the discs. There is a disc 1 with the black and white animation and the surviving episodes 2 and 3. And then we have the colour animation on disc 2. And so we have booklet, which is standard with the animated titles. And just a little catalogue thing, advertising other Doctor Who products, whatever. The Celestial Toymaker. I absolutely love the story. I think the story is fantastic, massively underrated. This was another DVD which I was putting off buying for a while, and not because of the story, but because of the animation. Yeah, they used the same sort of weird CGI mocap sort of thing they used on the special edition of the Web of Fear, which I don't understand why they did that with this particular one, because the animation for Web of Fear special edition was like really, like, everyone took the piss out of it, including me, because it was so bad. And I don't know why they bothered with that style again, because the thing is, though, this looks slightly better. It's slightly better animated, but still, it looks off. And it's a shame, really, because I like some of the ideas, you know, with this one, because Celestial Toymaker in itself is a story that, you know, would benefit from animation, because, or even if the visuals still existed, because it is a very, very, very visual story. In fact, I honestly really like the loose cannon reconstruction, what they did with it. And I like some of the elements. I've not watched this in full, but I've seen bits of it, and I like some of the things they did with it, like the King and Queen of Hearts, I think they are, looking like actual playing cards rather than actors in costumes, which is kind of a nice thing. You know, if you're gonna if you're going to do animation, you're going to either go big or go home. Yeah, I like those ideas, but the less said about the main cast, the better, because they look awful. The CGI and the mocap is so bad and honestly quite creepy as well. It looks a bit like if you've ever seen Jimmy Neutron Happy Family, a Happy Hour, it looks a bit like that. And also, even the cover is like the most unintentionally frightening thing I've ever seen. I've got 18 rated horror films on that shelf with far less frightening covers than this. Oh dear. But inside, this is just the loose cannon reconstruction, which I've had for a good 4 years now. But yeah, this is the actual DVD that it came with, using the reversible sleeve, of course, so it matches with the rest. So yeah, here's disc 1 with the black and white animation and the surviving episode 4, and the colour episodes. I don't know if I will ever watch the animation. If I ever try to watch the story again, I'll probably watch the photo reconstruction, because this one has a photo reconstruction on it, which, yeah, I mean, it looks decent from what I've seen. So if they do release like a special edition of this, I will not bother upgrading. Here's the booklet, just sort of standard, and the same catalogue you got with Underwater Menace as well. Yeah, and also, funnily enough, there's a slight edit in this edition of the story, because there's a bit when the king goes eeny meeny miny mo in episode 2, I think it is, and he drops the N-bomb because he does the old version of eeny meeny miny mo. Now, if you watch the loose cannon reconstruction, it's very muffled, like, but you can hear it. But on this, it's edited out, which I would have kept it unedited on the photo reconstruction purely based on principle. But to tell you the truth, the edit is so subtle that you probably wouldn't notice if you weren't paying attention or trying to spot it. Yeah, but I can imagine the Gammons complaining about this, but surprisingly, the Gammons haven't really picked up on the editing on this particular release. Mostly they've been just complaining about Ncuti Gatwa and David Tennant telling Kimmy Badenoch to shut her fucking face. So the next DVD is absolutely hilarious film, Santa's Sleigh. I know Christmas is like 2 months away, but because this is an out-of-print title, the price, they might sell out of this when the Christmas season actually comes up. So I bought it sort of when I did, and I got this from CEX online. Now, after I had that experience with that bottom box set last update, I said I'd never buy from CEX again. CEX was the only place that had this for a decent price, so I took a bit of a gamble with it, and it did pay off because it's in decent enough condition. It's used, but it's decent shape, the disc works and everything. But yeah, this is an absolutely hilarious film, probably my favourite Killer Santa movie. It does something very different with the Killer Santa trope, because in most Killer Santa movies it's a guy in a Santa suit doing it, whereas in this movie it's the actual Santa who's the killer. Basically he's this demon who lost a bet with an angel, and afterwards he's basically made to deliver presents on Christmas Day for the past 1,000 years or so, and when the film takes place the curse has expired, and so he goes on a killing spree. It's a very, very crude movie and absolutely ridiculous. Very cheap movie as well. It feels a bit like a Hallmark movie, only with crude humour and a killer Santa. So basically a Hallmark movie that's worth fucking watching. But yeah, this is immensely fun. James Caan appears in it as well in a brief cameo. Yep, here's the disc. Next up is the Peter Serafinowicz show, complete series. They only did one series of this. This is the show the kitchen gun meme came from. I do admit I've not watched the show in full as of yet, but I have seen quite a few of the sketches from it, and they are absolutely hilarious. Love Peter Serafinowicz. I love Look Around You as well, so I should probably like this. But yeah, here are the discs. Over two. Next up, we've got Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. Most regular viewers of this channel will know. Yes, I do have the double set with Roadhouse 2. I did finally watch Roadhouse 2 not so long ago, and it's pretty fucking bad. Not like the worst thing I've ever seen, but it's just extremely dull and feels like a very, very, very cynical cash grab. There just really isn't anything good about it, so I'll probably offload this. Because to tell you the truth, I only got the double set a few years back because HMV didn't have the first one on its own. Fortunately, I managed to get the first one for a decent enough price on Amazon. Now, I'm not going to pretend like Roadhouse is some masterpiece, because it really isn't. But I did rewatch it not too long ago, and it's really, really fun. Really, really do enjoy Roadhouse. It's cheesier than Wallace's shit, but it's immensely fun. It's a very, very stupid movie, and very far-fetched, but who cares, because it's just so ridiculously cheesy and awesome. Here's the disc. And the final two DVDs are kind of a set together. These are Video Nasties, The Definitive Guide, and Video Nasties, The Definitive Guide, Part 2. I got these from, these were imported from the US. I think you can get these in the UK, but they are quite rare. I think Part 2 seems to be more common than Part 1 is. But I got these from Severin in the US. They were very, very heavily reduced, but unfortunately the postage kind of killed it, and they ended up costing about the same as they would normally. But I kind of knew I wouldn't get them any cheaper. So I probably won't be importing any more titles from Severin, just because £21 for fucking postage. Are you fucking joking? But yeah, these are fantastic documentaries, all about the Video Nasty scandal that happened in the early 80s. But yeah, this is Video Nasty's The Definitive Guide, which focuses on the era before the Video Recordings Act. Very, very, very insightful documentary. That I would probably say this is probably the best documentary you'll ever see on the Video Nasties, because there's so much history, and that I'd argue that this could have been longer. It kind of felt like they glossed over a bit of it, but overall it was absolutely fantastic. They got a lot of people interviewed from various walks of life. Like they got Graham Bright, that stupid MP who thought if you showed a Video Nasty to a dog it would attack you. I wish I was joking, but these are the types of people who you'd expect to run a country, and they say the most stupid shit. And things haven't really changed, apparently. This is a 3-disc set. This also includes trailers for the main 39 videos on the Video Nasties list. I've not seen that many of the Section 1 Video Nasties. I think I've seen Blood Feast, I've seen Island of Death, Night of the Demon, and Cannibal Holocaust, and I think I might have seen more, but I'm not sure. But yeah. Here we have the discs, and what's this? This is a security sticker that was on the case. And if you remember that episode of You Know What's Bullshit, the first episode of You Know What's Bullshit was all about these security stickers. I don't know how common they are in the US, but you never see them in this country. I've never owned a DVD in my life that's had a security sticker on it. Even the US ones I have don't have security stickers like this until now, until I got this, which is a bit bizarre. Yeah. And Video Nasty's The Definitive Guide Part 2. This one is longer than Part 1 and came out a few years later. This was after the Video Recordings Act and before James Furman left the BBFC. So focuses a lot on a lot of the controversies that were happening in the early 90s, such as the video limbo period, and when this Conservative MP wanted to introduce a bill which would basically ban most 18 rated films basically on video. Thankfully that law never passed, by the way, but it was dangerous close to passing, and James Furman was actually one of the people against it, which is bizarre because you wouldn't expect that from James Furman. James cuts nunchucks out of everything Furman. This one I do think is better than the first one. Definitely a lot more insightful and longer as well. Yeah, this is also a 3-disc set, which I think the special features in here are stuff from related to the Section 2 and Section 3 lists for the Video Nasties, including a lot of trailers. Here's the discs. And we also get a Severance sticker, which is quite surprising. Very nice addition. Right, so now we move on to the Blu-rays, and the first Blu-ray is absolute mental film, but absolutely hilarious film at that. Hundreds of Beavers. This was introduced to me by Triv over at Tribble Theatre. I'll link a review to this film in the description below. Check her channel out. Absolutely hilarious film. I really have no idea how to describe it. There's a quote on here from Slash Film, which I think sums it up the best. It exists as a crossroads of Looney Tunes, Benny Hill, Blazing Saddles, and Adult Swim mindsets. You can't really argue with that. Really sort of off the wall film. Absolutely hilarious. I was pissing myself laughing for most of this. It's sort of done in the style of like an old 1920s sort of cartoon. It's sort of a silent film. I mean, there is sound, but it's like grunts and stuff like that. There's no dialogue. Done up to like an old film. It is basically like a Looney Tunes cartoon, only like cruder. You can't really beat a film that has 100 like guys in beaver mascot suits. It's one of those films where you just have to see it to believe it. I've probably done a terrible job at selling it, but trust me, it's fantastic. I'm very grateful this actually has a UK release. I don't think this was shown theatrically in this country. It was shown theatrically in America in like select film festivals, and then they a couple of months back released it here on Blu-ray. I believe it has since been given a cinema release here in like a very limited capacity. But we actually got our Blu-ray release of this before the Americans got theirs, which is kind of amazing. But yep, here's the disc. Comes in a black Blu-ray case, and comes in one of the American style Blu-ray cases, which I don't really like American style cases. A lot of Blu-ray companies over here have recently started putting Blu-rays in the American style cases, and I don't understand why. I mean, the standard size 40mm cases were fine, so I don't know why they had to change them. Next one is another off-the-wall film, and possibly one of my favourite animated films. The Beatles, Yellow Submarine. Got the second hand because I think this might be out of print on Blu-ray. But when this was in print, the price was a bit hideous. It was like 30 quid, which... fuck off, I'm not paying that much for this. It's not... I own this now in my hands and it's not worth 30 quid. I got this for about 20, so at least I got it reduced. Still a bit much, but I don't think I'd ever find it for any cheaper. This is basically what I imagine 1968 looks like in a nutshell. It's kind of off the wall. It's a very weird film, but very, very enjoyable. I will admit I'm not like the biggest fan of the Beatles. I've liked a lot of the songs I've heard, but I wouldn't call myself like a Beatles fan or anything like that. And that this is the only Beatles movie I've seen. I've heard Hard Day's Night is really good as well, which is sort of very similar, but obviously live action. But yeah, this film's absolutely insane. Very much what an animated film should be, just off the wall. And also very, very dry. It's got a very, very dry sense of humour. In fact, I was giggling like an idiot through most of this. Not because it's bad or anything like that, but because it's just, especially the Fab Four themselves, just how dry their delivery is and their acting is. It's really quite amusing. But yeah, this is an animated film where it's not like Watership Down or Wizards or something, where, you know, a kid would probably fuck a kid up. Like, it probably wouldn't do a kid any harm to see this, but it's not really a kid's film, if you get where I'm coming from. It's really kind of, probably because of the film, it's really because of the film itself, like it's geared more towards adults than to children. I mean, it's only a U, so it's pretty harmless, but still. Unfortunately, the outer box is a bit tatty. In fact, I've done this up a bit with Sharpie to make it look a bit more presentable. But the inside of the case is fine, and you still get everything you need with it. Here's the disc. And inside we get some gumph with it. So we get an advert for the picture book and the Beatles Love Tour. And we also get some... I don't know what you call these. They're not animation cells. They're just printings on the main four on celluloid. These are quite nice. So you get John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison, and the fan mail man. And we also get some stickers right here, which is very bizarre. I don't know why they'd include these, and I can't think of anyone who'd actually use these as stickers. Indeed, I would not ever use these as stickers. It's odd they're included because this is, as I've said, it's not really a kids' film, is it? And given the price, it's not the sort of thing you'd buy for your kids, and so I don't know why it came with stickers. But there we go. And a booklet is quite nice. At least the package is complete. But yeah, that is Yellow Submarine. Next one is The Howling, Joe Dante film. I saw this a few years ago. Out of the three, I've seen two of the three werewolf films that came out in 1981. This is not as good as like American Werewolf in London and stuff, but it's a pretty enjoyable werewolf film. Got us an HMV for a good price. But yeah, definitely worth watching. Not my favourite Joe Dante film either, but still pretty good. Next one is Bullet with Steve McQueen, film I've been wanting to see for a while. Really, really good film, this. Definitely sort of the embodiment of 60s cool. It's sort of your classic Steve McQueen kind of film. Warners have started re-releasing a lot of their older Blu-ray titles, and this is... And so they've got the new BBSE ratings and stuff like that, but they've also come in the thinner sort of US cases, and what's really stupid is I've changed the box because this originally came in one of those awful eco boxes. It's annoying, especially considering that these specific type of cases are not standard in the UK, and they're standard in the US but not in the UK. The spine's like a weird thickness, so it's very hard to find supplies for these type of cases, which is really fucking irritating because I've only got so many of these type of cases. It's fucking stupid. I don't know why Warner Brothers thought it was a good idea. But yeah, here's the disc. Next one is another Blu-ray in sort of a similar style case. This is The Last Boy Scout. Very fun early 90s action film. I got this on the till at HMV, heavily discounted, so I wasn't like intending to buy this, but they had it cheap and I picked it up because I'd heard good things about it, and it is good fun. It's very cheesy, kind of cheesy in a fun way. It's written by Shane Black, who also wrote Lethal Weapon, so you know it's got to be fun if he's behind it. It's a film about American football, by the way, which I've got no interest in, but I still really enjoyed it. Here's the disc. Next one is Clint Eastwood film. Play Misty for Me. I believe this was Clint Eastwood's first directorial debut. Very good film. Not my favourite Clint Eastwood film, but definitely still, I would say, worth a watch. Works really quite well as a thriller. Yep, here's the disc. The next one is Jewel, Steven Spielberg's first film. Absolutely fantastic film. Possibly my favourite Spielberg film, but I might need to watch Jaws again. Yeah, this film's absolutely amazing. Yeah, I did write a very extensive review on my Letterboxd if you're interested in reading that. But yeah, this is the 50th anniversary edition. This was a TV movie at first, and I believe it was like some executives at like Universal or something thought the film had a lot of potential, so Spielberg filmed a few extra scenes and it got released in cinemas internationally. This is the cinema version. I believe they not too long ago released this on 4K with the original TV version. To be honest, I'm not really that fussed because this is basically, because I don't think there's anything that different to the TV version except this is more scenes. But yeah, absolutely fantastic film. Shot entirely on location, I believe. Like, because this was one of his first, Steven Spielberg's first films, the studio didn't want to put the money in, you know, to film on location because, you know, they wanted him to do it all in the studio and have, you know, the inside of the cars like blue screen stuff, and Steven Spielberg said no because that would look shit, and it does, and it would look shit. But this was entirely filmed on location. I think it works better for it. Definitely it feels a lot more effective, whereas I think if this was filmed in a studio, that would have just taken away from it quite a bit. You'd be too distracted by just how dodgy the blue screen looks, rather than actually watching the film itself. But yeah, here's the disc. We got a poster in here as well. It's the same as on the... I won't bother unfolding it. It's the same as on the front cover, except it's double-sided, and one side has the title, like the other side doesn't. Other than that, the artwork's the same. Which is pretty cool. Next one is a Mel Brooks film, The Producers, with Zero Mostel and Gene Wilder. I saw this film good many years ago. Absolutely fantastic film. This is where Springtime for Hitler came from. But I just never got it on Blu-ray till recently. It was in HMV's musical section, which is odd because it's not really a musical. It's about a musical, but it's not a musical per se. But yeah, an absolutely fantastic film. Not my favourite Mel Brooks film, but still absolutely amazing. Here's a disc. The next couple of Blu-rays are some I got from the Arrow video sale. The first one is a box set, the Hellraiser tetralogy. Bit of an embarrassing confession to make. I'd never seen any of the Hellraiser movies until a couple of weeks ago. These are the 4 theatrically released ones. There's like 7 or 9 or something, and like the rest are direct-to-video and aren't worth a crap. I was going to get the trilogy, but they didn't have the trilogy, and I didn't even know this set existed, so I picked up the tetralogy instead. But this includes Hellraiser, Hellbound Hellraiser 2, Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, and Hellraiser Bloodline. So here are the discs inside. So the first one we have is, of course, absolute classic, the original Hellraiser. Absolutely brilliant film, and one of my favourite 80s horrors, in fact. Really did enjoy it. A very, very sort of weird film. It's sort of a British and American co-production. Most of the cast are American, although there's some British cast members in this, dubbed to attract a larger audience. But it was filmed in England, and Clive Barker's English himself. Yeah, as I said, brilliant film, this. Here's the disc, and inside we had the artwork that it came with originally. I'm using the reversible sleeve with the poster art. And inside we have a little card with serial killer cult, thing for the Arrow video player, and an advert for Dolls, which is in the Arrow video video store set. Hellbound Hellraiser 2. This one's quite good as well. It's not as good as the first Hellraiser. It's kind of drags a bit in places, but it definitely is worth a watch. Mental film, absolutely mental as hell. I like a lot of the lore it builds up on from the first Hellraiser. Definitely worth a watch, in my opinion. Here's the inside with the artwork. Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth, also known as Pinhead Takes Manhattan. This is basically sort of the point where the series kind of devolved into sort of being a slasher series, because Pinhead basically just kills anyone he comes across, whereas in the lore, it's supposed to be whoever opens the box is who becomes the victim of the Cenobites. But yeah, it's fun. It's not one of the best ones, but it's good fun for what it is. Here's the inside. And then finally, Hellraiser Bloodline, which must be a great film because it got Alan Smithied, as you can see right there. Alan Smithy, for those who don't know, is a pseudonym used by directors who didn't want to be credited for their films for one reason or another. Yeah, this film, it feels like the studio had interfered with it because it's got an interesting premise, but it's kind of a mess and a bit boring in places. So definitely the weakest film out of the lot. So not great. I didn't hate it, but it wasn't particularly good either. It's not. I wouldn't watch this again. Here's the inside. And what's bizarre about these is they've Arrow Video not too long ago updated their opening logo that appeared at the start of the Blu-rays. I don't know if you've seen the new opening logo, but at least they've done something with it, whereas a lot of other boutique labels, their opening logos are pretty shit. But I must say I much prefer the older Arrow Video logo, the one which more people are familiar with. They did do a remake of this of the first Hellraiser a few years ago, and they made Pinhead into a woman, because in the original films, Pinhead was a man, and of course the Conservatives whinged about it. Like, they made it woke. The thing is, though, to those Conservatives, fuck off. In the original book, this was based on, Pinhead was gender neutral. From what I understand, so it doesn't really make a difference. And what I find vaguely another story which I find vaguely amusing is Clive Barker was like a convention once, and this like Conservative came up to him and went, "Oh, I like your work, but isn't it a shame that the woke karate got your work and then they fucked it up?" And Clive Barker just looked at him and went, "Have you read any of my books?" Which is like the best response ever to these conservative idiots. Because Clive Barker's like gay, I believe. Yeah. Next one is another one from the Arrow Video sale is Withnail and I, starring Richard D. Grant and Paul McGann. Absolutely brilliant film. This, if you've not seen it, absolute British cult classic from the late 80s. Don't try the drinking game with this. You will probably fucking die if you tried it. But yeah, very, very enjoyable film. Very good fun. Here's the disc. Here's the artwork that it came with, which for some reason is like identical to the reversible, to the poster artwork. So I don't know why they even bothered changing it. Yeah, we get a card for the video player and fucking ammo, which I think I've got on another one of my Blu-rays. And the final Arrow Blu-ray is Schlock, the debut film of the guy who killed Vic Morrow and 2 children and whose son is a rapist. So yeah, I'm a bit reluctant about supporting this because of the guy who directed it. I've not seen this yet, so I don't know if it's going to be any good or not. I've heard mixed things about it, but I mean, it should be fun enough. I mean, even though the guy who directed it's a massive piece of shit, he can direct great films. And also, you can't really go wrong with a film that features a guy in an ape suit. I mean, I've always got a fondness for films with guys in ape suits in. So it should be at least vaguely amusing. I mean, I got it on sale, so, you know, it's not that big of a waste. Inside we have some reversible artwork, which I think is one of the posters. Slightly weirdly for Arrow release, I don't think they did any commissioned artwork for this. I think that might have been, I don't know if that's commissioned artwork or made to look vintage, but I think that might be the poster artwork actually on that side. This was the artwork that it came with, as you can tell by the fact it's got a 12 rating on it. And inside we have a little postcard for Stormy Monday and a few other Arrow Video titles. I think I'm seeing, are any of these out of print? No, I don't think. Oh, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, that one's out of print, I think. But the rest of these I think might still be in print. And a booklet, which is very nice. You don't usually get the booklets with Arrow titles when they get reissued, but I think this one might have been new old stock because it comes in an Amaray case rather than the modernish sort of Viva Elite cases you get these days. And I think I do remember like the shrink wrap was a bit dirty, so I think this was probably like old stock that wasn't selling, I'm gonna guess. But yeah, that was Schlock. Right, so the final load of Blu-rays are all from one semi-series. And these are films I've been wanting to watch for ages, but never got around to until now. And these are, boom, the Universal monster movies. The classic ones from the 30s and 40s. Been wanting to watch them for ages, but I've just kind of never got around to it until now. So yeah, I own all 6 of the Legacy Collection Blu-ray sets for the various monsters, as well as 2 versions of Phantom of the Opera. So I'll show you all these. This one is this one's, whether or not this is considered part of the series is debatable, but I consider it part of the series. This is the 1925 version of Phantom of the Opera, starring Lon Chaney. This is the BFI edition. This is the 3-disc set. A very, very, very good film, and has a slightly flat spot, sort of near the middle, but it's still absolutely brilliant film. Lon Chaney gives one of the best performances of his career. Surprisingly, I've never actually seen, until this point, I've never seen like an adaptation of Phantom of the Opera. I guess Phantom of the Paradise is pretty close, but not sure. That was more of a spoof of Phantom of the Opera. Yeah, this is a very nice edition. This includes the 1925 and 1929 versions, the 1929 restored version. This film originally came out in 1925, and I believe it was so successful that they actually refilmed some of it in 1929, and we filmed it with talkie bits and released it as a sound film. I believe the 1929 version is now considered lost. I believe only reel 5 of the 1929 version is known to exist. So the 1929 version on here is sort of like a best of both worlds version. It's silent. There's not any of the talkie bits, but it's sort of best of both worlds. And that's the version I saw. This also includes the 1925 release, which the quality's not as good on that one, because I believe that one the negatives are lost, as are most decent copies of the film, and I believe the only copies that are known to exist are like 16mm view at home prints sold by Universal. But yep, here are the discs. So here's the Blu-ray, DVD, and the DVD, the short documentary, Lon Chaney, 1,000 Faces, and on the inside we have adverts for other BFI titles. The booklet, and some more BFI titles, BBC's Ghost Stories. Now we move on to the Legacy Collection sets, and the first one is Dracula, the Complete Legacy Collection from 1931 to 1948. Obviously Bela Lugosi on the front. Yeah, but until I got this set, the only proper adaptations of Dracula I'd seen were Nosferatu, which is of course a classic, and the Hammer version. The 1931 Dracula kind of fits in between for me. So this contains 6 films in it. So we got Dracula from 1931, Dracula's Daughter, Son of Dracula, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. And this also includes the Spanish version of Dracula as an extra, which I consider part of the set. inside do we have the credits? So here we have the first Dracula. Absolutely amazing film. Highly recommended. Bela Lugosi is phenomenal. It definitely has a far better first and second act, but a somewhat weak third act. It feels a bit rushed, and apparently there was a lot of scenes that were cut from the movie for one reason or another, and obviously the cut footage is now lost. But it's still really, really good. Very, very stagey movie. It was actually adapted from the stage play rather than the original Bram Stoker novel, and you can kind of tell there's a lot of scenes in this that are it's a very, very sort of talky movie. It's not really necessarily a film that takes advantage of the visuals, but still really, really good. The Spanish version of Dracula is included on the same disc. The Spanish version is very interesting. It's a very interesting film. Basically, what Universal did, this was 1931, so this was a fairly early sound film. They filmed two different versions of the same movie, one for English audiences and one for Spanish audiences. The Spanish version was filmed on the exact same sets and used the same script, but obviously with Spanish actors. And a lot of people do consider the Spanish version superior to the English version. And on a technical level, yes, I have to agree, it is better. Definitely a better shot film. It definitely has a lot more stuff sort of fleshed out, where it feels more like a complete package, whereas the English Dracula kind of feels a bit like there could have been more. But sadly, the Spanish version does have the slightly opposite problem of the fact that it overstays its welcome a bit, and kind of after a while I was losing interest in it a bit. And also, Carlos Varias does do a really good job as Dracula, but he's no Bela Lugosi. I don't really think he can beat Bela Lugosi. Also, fun fact about Bela Lugosi, he only ever played Dracula twice. In the first Dracula and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, he never reprised the role. He never reprised the role that made him famous. Dracula's Daughter and Son of Dracula. Dracula's Daughter I need to watch again, because I do remember finding it quite dull and a bit boring. It definitely has a lot of good stuff there and a lot of great ideas, but overall the end package was a bit And I mean, there was a romantic subplot in it as well, which took up a good percentage of the runtime, and I just didn't give a shit. Son of Dracula is almost as good as the original Dracula, but it's just not as good. Really, the big problem is Lon Chaney Jr. He's a bit crap as, well, I guess, the son of Dracula, but it's never properly explained whether or not he is the actual Dracula who's returned, or it's the son of Dracula. But still, it's really good fun for what it is. Then we move on to the Monster Mash movies. So we have House of Frankenstein, which I thought was a bit of a mess. I really did not really get on with House of Frankenstein. Pretty much all the monster movies are kind of a bit of a dull sort of mess. The Dracula stuff kind of feels a bit like it's just there, like a Dracula short film. Then we get to the crap with Frankenstein and the Wolfman and so on. House of Dracula I think is slightly better in that regard, like it feels a bit more natural together, so I would say I prefer House of Dracula, but overall it's just not, the Monster Mash movies just aren't that good. And then we have Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, which tell you the truth, I'm not a fan of Abbott and Costello. I've seen some of their stuff, and tell you the truth, it's just the sense of humour is very dated. Not in the sense that it's like racist or anything like that. It's more just kind of corny, sort of cracker kind of jokes. It's just, I didn't find it particularly funny. But I must say overall I did really enjoy. I think Meet Frankenstein's really good fun for what it is. Comedy can be a little to be desired, but definitely the storyline itself is really good. So I would recommend it. It's not one I think is like a masterpiece like some people say, but Meet Frankenstein is good fun. Then we have probably my favourite series out of a lot, Frankenstein, the complete legacy collection, features all 8 of the original legacy from 1931 to 1948, obviously with a Boris Karloff on the front there. This includes Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, which they made a bit of a mistake right there. They list that as film as 1943, when that film actually came out in 1939. Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. The annoying thing about when you buy the legacy collections on Blu-ray is about half the sets. A lot of the films are repeated across multiple sets, which can be a bit annoying and does seem a bit like a cynical cash grab kind of thing. But I guess but in hindsight, it's actually quite a good idea, because when these originally came out on DVD, each set had unique films in it. Which, if you want them all, like I do, it's great, but the problem is, if you only like one specific monster and don't care about the rest, and you want all the films of that specific monster, you're going to have to buy like multiple sets just to get all the films, and of course obviously that price is going to rack it up. And so what they did with the Blu-rays is they just stick all the films with the monsters in the set, and the worst is it's just a bit annoying, for people who own them all, because that means you can have multiples of the same film sometimes. And also it's not like it rackets up the price or anything, because most of these sets were, I think the Frankenstein set was probably the most expensive for me. It was about 30 odd quid. The rest were about 25 quid. I think I got the Invisible Man set for like 12 quid or something, so it's not too bad. So inside here we have the original Frankenstein from 1931. Absolutely phenomenal film. I really did enjoy the original Frankenstein movie. So it takes a lot of liberties from the book, and in fact a lot of the elements from which you see in later adaptations of Frankenstein actually come from this film, and they don't come from the book. Like, for example, in the book it was chemistry that Dr. Frankenstein uses to bring the monster to life, but in this it's electricity, which is you always see in like spoofs and stuff. And also in the book, Victor Frankenstein, although in this film he's called Henry Frankenstein for some reason, he works alone. In this film he actually has a hunchback assistant, although in this film he's not called Igor. There is a character introduced later in the films called Igor, or Wygor, or however you pronounce it, but he's not the same character. In this film he's called Fritz. It was sort of later on when Igor became synonymous as Frankenstein's assistant. The Bride of Frankenstein is the next one, which is probably my favourite out of all the Universal Monster movies. This one was actually included in... There is an 8-film collection out there of the Universal Monster movies, but I don't have that because it's just the first film of each of these sets, so there's not really any point. But this one was the only sequel in that set that was included, and I can see why. Absolutely phenomenal film. Works really well, kind of on an emotional level, because one thing I like about the monster is the monster himself is really sympathetic as a character, even in the first Frankenstein film. He's not doing anything malicious. He's just, he just doesn't know any better and stuff like that, and everybody hates him because everyone's a dickhead. Bride of Frankenstein, I think, is one of the best examples of this, and also he definitely has a lot of character development. One thing, he actually learns how to speak, albeit very limited. In the first film, the monster couldn't speak. I believe in the book, the monster could speak. There's actually a really lovely scene in this film, in Bride of Frankenstein, where he befriends a blind man, which was, to tell you the truth, I couldn't really take it that seriously because they spoofed it in Young Frankenstein, and the spoof scene and the spoof of that in Young Frankenstein is absolutely hilarious. And also, I really like the part with the bride. Even though the bride doesn't really show up even though the bride's only got like 5 minutes of screen time, it's still absolutely brilliant. But yeah, I definitely would recommend Bride of Frankenstein. Then we get to the films which are exclusive in this set. Son of Frankenstein, which is also pretty good. Not as good as the original Frankenstein or Bride of Frankenstein. I don't really like the fact that with the monster, with the sequels, they kind of reversed some of his character development, and he's now just like a zombie, like a brute zombie in the later films, which is a bit of a shame because, to be honest, they could have done a lot more with him after Bride of Frankenstein. But yeah, Son of Frankenstein's pretty good. This was the one I think that Mel Brooks took the most influence from when he did Young Frankenstein. A Ghost of Frankenstein, probably the weakest of the series, but I'd still quite enjoyed it for what it was. It's just kind of B-movie fun. The best part of Son of Frankenstein and Ghost of Frankenstein is Wygor, the hunchback guy, played by Bela Lugosi, who also played Dracula. Fun fact, Bela Lugosi was actually approached to play the monster in Frankenstein, but he declined because the monster didn't have any speaking lines and he thought more highly of himself, so they got Boris Karloff instead. And that kind of backfired for Bela Lugosi, because if you read into like the history of reading to the life of Bela Lugosi, he really kind of struggled after Dracula. Because the thing is that Bela Lugosi's career kind of went down the toilet after Dracula, whereas Boris Karloff's just kind of went up. But yeah, Ghost of Frankenstein's alright. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, which is probably my favourite of the Monster Mash movies. Really, really enjoyable. And not really a Frankenstein movie though. The Frankenstein monster doesn't really appear in it that much. It's more about Larry Talbot, who's the Wolfman. But yeah, it's definitely very good. Definitely very good fun. Definitely would recommend it. Definitely kind of has a weaker climax, but the build up to it's definitely very good. And also, to paraphrase James Rolfe, yes, we know the monster's not actually called Frankenstein. The monster doesn't have a name. It's the Doctor who's called Frankenstein, but whatever. As Frankenstein has Dracula, you know my opinion on those, and Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. Actually, going back to Meet Frankenstein, I don't know why they call it Meet Frankenstein, because the Frankenstein monster doesn't really have that much to do in it. He's still kind of a brute in it, which is a bit of a shame, really, because really kind of Dracula gets a lot more to do in that film. So I don't know why it's not called Abbott and Costello Meet Dracula. I really don't know. Next up, we've got The Mummy, the Complete Legacy Collection, from 1932 to 1955. I tell you the truth, the Mummy series is probably my least favourite of the Universal Monster movies. But yeah, this includes The Mummy from 1932, The Mummy's Hand, The Mummy's Tomb, The Mummy's Ghost, The Mummy's Curse, and Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. So when he signed him, here we have the disc. So we have the first Mummy, starring Boris Karloff again. Definitely my least favourite of all the Universal Monster movies. It definitely has a lot of good stuff there and a lot of good ideas in it, and Boris Karloff is phenomenal in the film, and it's great to see him sort of have kind of a proper sort of speaking role, because the first Mummy movie is very different to the sequels, because in the sequels and what we associate with a Mummy movie is a guy in bandages who just goes around strangling people, but in this film he's well spoken, he can talk, and there is definitely a lot of good stuff there, and there's the scene when he explains his backstory is quite harrowing, including an impaling scene which was actually quite graphic, for 1932. I mean, I know this was before the introduction of the Hays Code, but still, Obviously, by today's standards, it's pretty tame. You know, it's basically like a PG or something, but at the time, it was pretty hardcore. Then we have a bonus disc, which I think was in one of the older DVD sets. This is on DVD, by the way. This is the only DVD included in these sets. So now we move on to the sequels. So we've got The Mummy's Hand from 19... When's it from? Okay, 1940. Easily my favourite of the Mummy movies. Very, very enjoyable. Very weird movie. It's not really a horror. It's sort of like an action adventure sort of comedy, a bit like what the Brendan Fraser Mummy movies would become. Definitely very, very enjoyable. I can't really explain why I like this one so much. I just sort of do. The main characters in this are basically like a budget Abbott and Costello. Although, ironically, this is actually far more entertaining than the actual Abbott and Costello Mummy movie. But yeah, it's a very, very weird movie, but immensely fun. And The Mummy's Tomb from 1942. This one's a schlock. It's the Mummy sequels are basically just schlock. They're all kind of the same film. They're just below average slasher films. And thing is, the Mummy movies are very, very short as well. They're only like an hour each. But The Mummy's Tomb, like, no joke, the first 13 minutes or so are just a recap of The Mummy's Hand. It's just like, I mean, I kind of get that, because obviously at the time people didn't have video recorders and stuff, and yeah, and you were lucky, you know, to catch your sons in the cinema. But still, you know, why? You know, the film's not that long anyway, so why just retell like a movie we've already seen? But there is some good kills in it and some decent enough scenes, but it's just not great, is it? The Mummy's Ghost and The Mummy's Curse. Mummy's Ghost is... It's okay, The Mummy's Ghost. It's better than The Mummy's Tomb, but not really by much. I like the ending, though, but to be honest, it's just kind of a bit generic. Mummy's Curse, this one's shit. Easily my least favourite of the entire saga. I just don't think they cared at this point. I think if they were going to end the series, they should have ended it on Mummy's Ghost. I don't even know why they kept making these Mummy sequels, because they're not very good, and I believe even at the time they didn't make that much money, but I guess somebody must have watched them. And then we have Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, which is easily the worst of the Abbott and Costello movies. This one, I think I only laughed like once. It's really, really painfully unfunny. I could not get on with this one at all. And then we move on to a series I do like. The Invisible Man. All 6 films from 1933 to 1951. Obviously with Claude Rains on the front there. So this one includes The Invisible Man, The Invisible Man Returns, The Invisible Woman, The Invisible Agent, The Invisible Man's Revenge, and Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man. What's weird about this set is this one and the Wolfman set have the new BBFC ratings on them, whereas the other ones have the old ones. And also on this one, the other ones all have the standard sort of Amaray style case size, whereas this one is a lot thicker, and I really don't know why. And I don't really like the packaging design of, because the discs are somewhat fiddly to get out of the case, so I won't bother now. The Invisible Man, directed by James Whale, who also directed Frankenstein and The Bride of Frankenstein. I don't know if I'd call it as good as Bride of Frankenstein, but it's my second favourite of the Universal Monster movies, and very, very close, and a very, very close second at that. Absolutely brilliant film. Absolutely hilarious as well. This one, is, I guess I'd consider it really the first sort of horror comedy. It's not like funny in the sense that it's so bad it's good. It's more, it was intentionally funny, and the comedy really does work. It's dark humour, and it's absolutely hilarious. I was pissing myself laughing through most of this. But yeah, immensely fun. Claude Rains is fantastic as the Invisible Man himself, and just overall extremely entertaining. But it balances both the horror and also the comedy really well, and also the visual effects. There is definitely a lot of charm to the effects, but at the same time they do hold up immensely well, you know, for a film which came out in the 1930s. Invisible Man Returns is the next one, which is on the same disc as Invisible Woman. Invisible Man Returns is also fantastic. One of my favourites and one of the more underrated of the sequels. The thing is though, with the Invisible Man movies, they always try something different with them. They're always very genre bending. This one's more of a murder sort of mystery kind of revenge movie. Vincent Price plays the Invisible Man in it, and he's absolutely phenomenal. It took me a bit of time to recognise it was Vincent Price, because it doesn't really sound like Vincent Price. Some parts of it does sound really much like him, but he doesn't really have that recognisable sort of nasally voice you'd always associate with Vincent Price. In fact, telling you the truth, for many years I thought Vincent Price was British, until I looked it up, and no, he's American, although he did study in Britain. But yeah, Invisible Man Returns is fantastic, and definitely would recommend it. The Invisible Woman is definitely one I don't recommend. That film's absolute bollocks. It's a full-on comedy. The original Invisible Man was kind of a horror comedy, whereas Invisible Woman is just a fun comedy, and not even a very good one at that. It's a weird movie in terms of what happens, but it's painfully unfunny, and I would not really recommend it that much. The Invisible Agent, which is sort of a spy film, and that's a morale boosting propaganda film. Basically, this came out in 1942, I think, so right in the middle of the Second World War. It is basically the Invisible Man fighting Nazis, but it's quite good fun for what it is. None of the Nazis have like German accents, which is pissing off. And also Peter Lorre's in it, who I love Peter Lorre, but sadly he's kind of a bit wasted in this film. What's odd is he plays a Japanese man in it. I mean, they didn't go the full hog and make him wear like yellow face and do a dodgy accent, but it's just a bit odd because, okay, I know Peter Lorre's Austrian, but he's actually closer to German than he is to Japanese. And so I don't know why he didn't play one of the Nazis, because I think it would have been better casting. But still quite enjoyable. And then The Invisible Man's Revenge, which is also quite enjoyable. More of a serious sort of horror film rather than more of a horror comedy. Took a very long time to get it going, unfortunately. But once it did get going, it was definitely very enjoyable. What it was. And then Abbott and Costello Meet the Invisible Man, which is not as good as Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, but miles better than Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy. This one's probably the funniest of the Abbott and Costello movies. But the storyline wise, I think I prefer the story in Meet Frankenstein that bit more. Next up, we've got The Wolfman, the complete legacy collection from 1935 to 1948. And this one's probably the least value. This is probably the least value for money. If you've got them all. This includes 7 films. So this includes The Wolfman, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and we also have Werewolf of London and She-Wolf of London. So here are the discs. So we have The Wolfman, which is absolutely fantastic. Not my favourite of the Universal monster movies, but definitely very, very good. Definitely very enjoyable. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, blah 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 blah. Abbott Costello, blah blah blah. They're the same disc as on the Frankenstein set. And then we have Werewolf of London and She-Wolf of London, which are not related to the Wolfman. Lon Chaney Jr. is not in them, and the character's different. Werewolf of London, which came out in 1935, Wolfman came out in 1941. It's got an interesting idea for it, but it's hideously dull. I was bored shitless by it. I could not care less about it. I like some of the lore with it, about the mythology of werewolves, but overall it's just a bit crap. The Wolfman's like miles and miles better than that. The Wolfman's basically Werewolf of London, but like 1,000,000 times better. She-Wolf of London, which, to be honest, really does not have any business being in the set, because, spoiler alert, it's not a werewolf movie. It's not as bad as some people make it out to be. I found it quite entertaining, but it's sort of a murder mystery kind of film, and it's predictable as all arseholes. And when you figure out like who the killer is, there's not really much there, to be engaged in. But it's definitely good fun for what it is. And also the ending is like the most unintentionally funny thing I've ever seen in my life. But yeah, it's not great. Then we have a standalone title, and this one is the Claude Rains version of Phantom of the Opera. Now, I actually bought this before I got the 1925 version, but I saw the 1925 version first. This one's okay. Again, it's all right for what it is, but definitely nowhere near as good as the Lon Chaney version. I also bought this one from CEX as well, and CEX definitely redeemed themselves after that bottom box set. Claude Rains is good in it, but he's no Lon Chaney. It definitely does have its flat spots, and doesn't really feel like the gothic horror that you'd expect from the other ones. I mean, for one thing, this movie was actually shot in colour. In fact, I believe this was the only one of the Universal monster movies to be made in colour. All the others are in black and white. But it's alright. I don't recommend this really for completionist sakes. Here's the disc. And then the final set is The Creature from the Black Lagoon, the Complete Legacy Collection. So this only contains 3 films, so this is the shortest set. This contains Creature from the Black Lagoon, Revenge of the Creature, and The Creature Walks Among Us, from 1954 to 1956. So very odd, because these came out years after the rest of the films, and sort of that period when that mix between Universal horror and Universal sci-fi. Yeah, a bit of a mixed bag, this series. So the first one is Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is absolutely fantastic. A bit like the Frankenstein monster, this is really sympathetic. Basically, the monster's just minding its own business, and then humans come along, and humans being humans, they piss about with it. But yeah, definitely really good. Not one of my favourites of the whole series, but still pretty enjoyable. This also includes the 3D version on here, because this film and Revenge of the Creature were shot in 3D during the 3D boom. Unfortunately, I've only been able to watch them in 2D because I don't have a 3D player, but still, there's Creature from the Black Lagoon. And then we have Revenge of the Creature and The Creature Walks Among Us. I believe when this was first came out, there was an error with Revenge of the Creature, where both versions, I believe the 3D version on here is in 720p, because obviously they share discs, so it's to deal with the bitrate. I don't know why they didn't make this a 3-disc set, but whatever. So I believe when this first came out, there was actually a problem with Revenge of the Creature, where it was in 720p. This one, I think the 2D version's in 1080. Revenge of the Creature's alright. Definitely not as good as the first one. Nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as subtle. Kind Clint Eastwood actually appears in it very briefly. Very young Clint Eastwood makes a cameo in this, which is quite interesting. And The Creature Walks Among Us, which has a really good premise where they basically make the gill man, you know, be able to breathe on land. But overall was a bit cack. It had a really, really fucking terrible first half, but a much better second half. So yeah. So that was it. That's everything. Until next time, so long for now, and have a happy Halloween. So, good night out there, whatever you are.